For us, we know it's an opportunity for us to get to 6 wins, an opportunity to become bowl eligible, and it's one that we're excited about. These are fun games to get to go and play in. You get to go play a really good team on the road in an environment like we're going to have over there at Florida State, and it's something that our players get excited for as well.
What's different about playing a Florida State in this time of the year than like if you were playing Marshall or someone in your conference? I mean, do you look at it exactly the same, or is it for the players just a different kind of a game?
Yeah, I mean, I think, every game's important for us right now. Like last year, we had Liberty at the end of the year. It was non-conference, but it was important for us, with where we were at the time, right? Trying to finish the year, ranked as high as you can and hope you can get into some of these New Year's Six games. Well, for us this year, it's an opportunity to get to 6 wins, which obviously in college football is a huge milestone that you got to get to be able to get to the postseason. So, they're all important. I think for our kids, sometimes these games are a little bit more exciting, just to get to go play in that environment, to get to go play against a team like this. And it helps, they're in the top 25. They're playing really good football right now. So, you're going to play a really good football team that's playing well. So I think it's just a little bit more excitement for the team sometimes. But the truth in it is that, they're all important now. In college football, they all matter. And for us, where we're at right now, they certainly all matter. Trying to get to the postseason.
Coach, to add on to that, you talked about the environment and the way Florida State has been playing. How do you use the excitement from not only your coaching staff but your players? How do you channel that into the game plan and the way you prepare for the game?
Well, all that stuff is just kind of extra stuff. When you get between the lines, it's 11 on 11 and it's football. So it's good to be excited about those things coming up. It's good to have those things, that the players want to go and perform well in those type of environments. But the reality of it is that the work is still the work. And you got to get your game plan stuff done. You got to practice. You got to prepare. You got to make sure you're giving them our players the reps that they need to go out there and go play well. So, really, it's just kind of another game is really what it is. And I don't think you can make it more than that. Like I said, they're all important to us right now, and what we want to do and get to the postseason. So, yes, it's exciting and it's fun and it's good because your players are excited about playing these games, but the work's still the work during the week. And you got to go out during the week and you got to prepare and practice like you would regardless of who you're playing or where you're playing at.
Florida State's been pretty hot as of late. You had mentioned a great team that they're ranked. What are some of the things that you would notice about that team in preparing for them?
They're talented. It's Florida State, and they've got really good players. In year 3, you can see the progress that they've made. The guys are playing the schemes the way they want to play. You go back and watch some of the years past, and they're trying to do the same things. They're really. They're fitting the run really well. They're playing in the pass game. Their pattern match stuff is really good. They've got guys that can play man, but they don't have to. They will play zone. They match it up pretty good. You can tell they're on the same page. They've got great personnel on the D-line, at linebacker, and in the back end. And offensively, Coach Norvell has always been really good on offense, and he's got the pieces where he wants it. He's got a big outside receiver. That's a problem if you try to go one-on-one. Up front, they're playing really well this year. They run a bunch of gap schemes and things like that give you trouble. It's hard to pressure those things because you're kind of tracking down on these gap schemes. You got to really play. You got to play sound football against them. They've got backs that do a great job, 2 really good backs, 3 of them really that play. And their quarterback's done a good job. He's made good decisions. He runs the ball well, but he's a thrower first, but he can run and get him out of trouble. He's a good athlete. So, top to bottom, they're talented. That staff, they've won. They didn't get there by accident, and they're in year 3, and they've done a great job of consistently building each year as they've gone. And they kind of got it where they want it right now, and they got their kids believing. They're playing really well, and they're playing hard.
You talked about how they've been kind of building going now into year 3. How have you seen them grow as a program based on the film that you watched since the LSU game in week 1?
Well, they played well against LSU, too. They played well in that game. there's not, even in the LSU game and kind of early in the year, there were some deals where they had a hard time kind of matching some of the patterns when you would motion and adjust and shift. They're on top of it now. They're thinking ahead of the play. Whenever you're shifting and moving into things, they're communicating, getting it organized, and they're getting it called out. So not a lot of guys running free through there. They do a good job of matching all those things on the back end, and then up front, they're just a problem. They've got a bunch of guys that can really rush the passer, and their staff, I think, does a great job. They don't overcomplicate it. They let them get in one-on-one pass rush situations. They will run some games and do some things to kind of help with a pick every now and then. But when you got a bunch of dudes that can go, you just let them go, and they do that. So you can see they don't overcomplicate things on defense, especially. They're going to play what they play, and they're going to, you're going to have to beat them, and you're going to have to drive the ball down the field. They do a good job on the back end. Their safeties are great tacklers. They get guys on the ground. You don't bust runs and they go for touchdowns. They'll get them on the ground. In the pass game, if you get someone loose, they make open field tackles. So you have to drive the length of the field, and that's hard to do in college football, especially when you play a team like that.
You talked about their defensive improvements. Your guys Saturday, I think you had 2 sacks, 11 breakups, 6 hurries against a team that only given up 3 sacks all year. What were y'all doing that created problems for them?
Well, first of all, I think our staff had a really good plan for Georgia Southern. We mixed up. Some teams played them all where they tried to pressure play man, or they tried to drop 8 in coverage and just rush 3. And I think when you're all or nothing one way or the other, they're well coached, and their quarterback's a good player, so they're going to make adjustments. They're going to figure it out, and they're going to be able to kind of dial it in. I thought we did a good job of mixing up both. We picked our spots and brought pressure, and was able to do that. We were able to drop 8 at times. So, when you're mixing up coverages the way that we were, it makes a quarterback, he's got to wait till the snap. There's a big difference between a quarterback knowing pre-snap what's about to happen and knowing post-snap what's happening. It just allows the decisions to be made so much quicker, and we were able to get him to hold on to the ball a little bit. And again, our players executed really well. The guys that got in one-on-one situations, they did a really good job of getting home. We did a great job getting our hand up in the pocket and kind of making those windows. Quarterback had to throw the ball around them. Had a couple batted balls. We had, certainly the sack fumble was huge right there before half. So, on the back end, our guys did a great job. I was a little concerned. We talked about it last week, trying to match all the patterns that they have. They have a pretty extensive pass game, and they've been really good at it. So I was concerned going into the game, but our staff did a really good job getting the looks that they needed, and our players did a great job all week being locked in and focused and making sure that they're taking advantage of the reps we got and went out there and performed well. I knew, as competitive as that our kids are and that defensive group that we have, I knew that they were going to be ready to play on a short week, following the Troy game. Where in the second half we certainly didn't play the way we wanted to. They knew that, and the way they came back and got to work, I expected them to play well. I just, I think it's hard to predict that they'd play that well with an offense who's scored and put up points as much as they have.
Dennis,
Coach,
you've been
mentioned
here for a few wins over P5 programs. What's been just that normal area in which you guys have been able to take advantage of and get those wins in these tough environments against these, bigger schools?
Well, we've won a couple. I've been in a bunch of close ones. I think the thing that you got to do is you got to go out there, and like I said, it's got to be another game for you. It can't be bigger than what it is. When they put the ball down, it's football. And you got to go out there and you just got to go do your job, and you got to go execute. And I think, one of the biggest things is if you can go out there and you can start fast and have success in the first half, and you can get to halftime and you got a game, that's not what they want. You know what I mean? It's not, that's not the type of game that these teams want to play. Especially, they're right, just had a big one against Syracuse, right? That was nationally televised. That was a big game. They played really well. They got another big one coming up. They don't want to play in a game that's going to go 4 quarters. That's going to be a dogfight. So we got to come out and go play really well. We got to start fast like we've done the last few weeks. We got to make sure that we're being smart, take care of the football, play field position when you need to. Defensively, certainly you got to play well, especially against this offense the way they're playing right now. You got to get some stops early. You need special teams to show up, which has been happening for us. That's got to continue to happen. You got to play. You need all three phases to play well. I mean, you go back to the Iowa State win that we had a couple years ago, right? Defensively played great. Special teams played great. Offensively didn't play great, but we didn't do things that would hurt us. We played smart football. There were times when it's like, well, sometimes you got to punt the ball back and you got to go play. So you need all three phases to play well. You need to get into halftime feeling really good about where you're at and knowing that you have a chance in the second half. That's really what it kind of takes in these games. I mean, you go back to whenever I played, whenever I coached, the ones that, when you don't start very well, you don't start very fast and you kind of, fall behind early. Well, that's not a situation you want to be in, especially in those environments where you do have really good football players. You have crowd involvement in the whole deal. You want to kind of, hopefully you can take the crowd out of it if you're playing really good at halftime and come out in the second half, and then it's kind of a little bit more of a level playing field.
Coach, you mentioned about having 2 more games this year, trying to become bowl eligible. Do you feel like your team is embracing having a back against the wall mentality and trying to close out the season and getting at least one of the 2, but wanting to win both of them?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's when our team is at its best, is whenever you kind of sit there and you look around and say, all right, like this is it. Like this is the must-win situation that we need. I think we perform historically better in those roles. For us, we talked about it last week, that it was a must-win. And, we talked about trying to do something at the end of this year that would be special, that we would remember, something that was going to be significant, that would make the adversity that we went through, make it meaningful in the end and make it something that we're all proud of, when we come out of this thing on the back end of it. And, our kids have done nothing but fight and claw and scratch to go out there and go play and go win games. We haven't always played our best ball. That's going to happen sometimes. They've had some things that have happened, but that have cost us games, that kept us from winning. But at the end of the day, the effort and the intensity's never wavered. And I think at this time of year, a lot of times the teams that are excited to go out there and go play, I know as crazy as that sounds, but when you're excited to go out there and go play the game and you see that game as an opportunity and you feel like this is a must win for us, this is a game we need to go play well for, I think a lot of times that makes a big difference. Believe it or not, there are some teams sometimes that are just ready for it to be done when you get to the end of the year, and this team's not. Our team, they want to play. They want a bowl game. They want to win. They want to go finish it out in a way that we're all proud of. So, our team, I think that's when we're at our best, is when we're in those situations, and you got to have it. The thing that I've been the most proud of is I think we've learned from some of the things we've done, right? We've had some games where we didn't start fast. That's become a point of emphasis. Then maybe we didn't finish the way we wanted to, and then we did. And then, we've had a lot of things that this team hasn't gotten tired of doing the work. And that's really what it's about. You got to continue to do the work, and you got to continue to grind it out, and you got to continue to understand that, you've got to make progress until the horn blows at the end of the game, the last game of the year. And, whether it's older guys that have aspirations after this or it's younger guys that are coming back next year, that all this stuff is meaningful. Everything that you do matters, and every practice that you have, every film session that you have, every game certainly you get to play, it helps you for the future. And it doesn't matter, whether you're, like I said, an outgoing senior or you're a guy that's coming back. The work that you're doing right now matters for you in the long run.
Coach, what's the latest health-wise for this team? Zion had to leave the field momentarily Saturday night. Ben did as well. What's the latest on the team as a whole?
Yeah, you're at that point in the year where you get to week 11, and you're pretty touch and go with some of these guys. Zion should be good. Ben's on track to be good for this week. He's supposed to be full go for practice, which is a good thing for us, certainly. Up front, we've had some guys that have missed games. It's just kind of the accumulation of the wear and tear of the year. So, after that game, fortunately, there's really nothing major. So we're going to work hard in the training room and rehab-wise to get all those guys back and get them ready to play. So, right now there's not a whole lot of updates. We're expecting them to be able to go, expecting them to be able to play.
Coach, what one or two areas of the team watching film is Florida State either as good or maybe better than any team you faced so far in those one or two? Like, where do they really have special talent on film?
Yeah, I mean, pretty good everywhere. They're pretty good everywhere. Like I said, I think their D-line, you play a lot of D-lines that have one, guy that you like, man, this guy's pretty special, and the rest of them you feel pretty good about. They've got some real guys up there that, they win one-on-ones in the pass game and in the run game. They tear off of blocks and they make plays. I think their team speed is just it's outstanding. These guys can run. Their linebackers fly around. A lot of the things that you see, a lot of people try to run these nakeds off of play action and stuff. These guys just have speed. They recover. The back end, like I said, they're two safeties. Those guys, they're probably two of the best open field tacklers I've maybe ever seen. In 7 years of being here as a coach, they don't miss back there. So I just think that they're really talented all the way around, and I think they're built right on offense for the way they want to do it, right? They've got a 6'7" receiver that he's a contested jump ball guy. He plays big, plays physical. They've got some speed guys in the slot that they get the ball to. There are 3 running backs. They've got big backs, smaller backs that they do pass game stuff with, but they can do a little bit of everything. They're built. They're built to be effective, and they use them effectively. So, they've got good players, really from top to bottom. I wish that I could sit here and say, hey, this group's not very good and we can go at them, but that's not the case. They're as you would expect, from Florida State. They've got those types of guys.
You mentioned bowl eligibility and so forth. The Sun Belt could conceivably have as many as 10 teams be bowl eligible this year. Is that sort of affirmation of what you said about how good this league is?
I think so. It's hard to win games in college football. Every coaching staff works really hard. They've all got scholarship players. The players all want to win. There are no gimmies. And I think it does. I think it speaks to the strength of the league. You watch games every week, and it doesn't matter. There's not a whole lot of difference from the top to the bottom. You go through and you got teams that are, every week it's kind of a toss-up. It's who shows up and who plays the best. And, maybe it's cliche, but it's true. And I think that speaks to the strength of the league. Earlier in the year, all we heard about was the Eastern Division and how much better they were than the Western Division, all these things. And I think, as the season's played out, you see, well, they've got really good teams in both divisions, that, when there's crossover games, it's a toss-up of who's going to go out there and go win, who's going to play better. So, it makes me proud to be a part of this league. Whenever you see what we do against non-conference opponents, and then even week to week, you got teams that if you don't show up and you don't play well, you're not going to win. But it makes it fun because I think regardless of where you're at in the standings, you can show up, play well, and win. So it just makes it a little bit more exciting, I think, for fans and for people that are watching it.
On the other side of that coin, Des, there's only so many tie-ins for the Sun Belt. Is it concerning that there's not enough spots for how many there could be?
Well, those things that, you talk about the things that you can't control. Those are things that you can't really control. I've been on the outside looking in as a player, 3 times actually. But it is a little different now. There are more bowl games and more bowl opportunities. And, they got a lot of people that talk about, too many bowls. I've said it before, and I'll say it, as long as anyone will listen. I think that there's nothing but a good thing, when teams get an opportunity and these players get an opportunity to go play in a bowl game, something that they've worked really hard for. I think it's changed a little bit because there are more bowl games. All we can do is control what we can control. We're going to go try to prepare, go beat Florida State, and we got one more after that. We're going to try to win both of those. And then, the chips fall where they may, and you just gotta, you gotta kind of deal with it. And, it's always tough. I remember as a player, like I said, when we missed out, there was always 1, 2, 3 games that, that you kind of let slip away, and it's a tough thing to deal with after the fact. But, that's the reality of it. And, sometimes it does keep you from getting where you want to go. And it's a tough lesson to learn, but I know for us, all we can do is go try to win these games, try to get our seniors to a position where somebody wants us in a bowl game. We get to go play in a bowl game, and we get to finish this season for those guys the way we want to.